on since the Kickstarter today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Lazarus decks, but I just wanted to mention that there's some news going on as far as Christmas sets and whatnot. So just head on over to the Discord if you're interested in that. And if you've got any questions about learning how to play, you can at the LTP, which is looking to play, or at official playtesters. And also, we've got folks out there who are starting to gift out tabletop simulator for as we're getting into the holidays, recognizing that a lot of people don't have extra money and whatnot. So if you want to learn to play, just come and let us know. And we've got sponsors, if you will, that are boosters that are trying to help spread the game and get more players involved, even if you can't afford to get tabletop simulator. But understand that dungeon mode's going to be coming out before too long, and draft mode is going to be coming out before too long. So it's just an awesome time to get in there and play. There's also going to be leagues that are going to be developing, and those leagues are going to have prizes associated with them. And eventually, those prizes are going to start getting pretty big from a player and collector standpoint. So hope to see you in there, and look forward to hanging out with you. Have a great day. Okay, Rise Guild, let's get right into it. I'm going to try to make this video 10 minutes or less. So we're going to go right, this is the Lazarus deck, and we're going to go right into the summoners. So the first summoner here is Lazarus. And so Lazarus is the kind of the cornerstone of this deck. His first skill allows Lazarus to summon a rank infinite skeleton creature. That's the skeleton creature right here. It has reanimation, so every time it dies, it's going to charge up your ether, and then you're going to roll a dice, and then it's going to come back into play with a +1/+1 counter if you get a success. So this is the fuel of this deck, is these skeletons here that can be reanimated, and all of the skeletons in this deck are going to feed everything. If you go into Lazarus' second ability, Lazarus gains 1 health point for each skeleton creature in play under your control. And then the last thing is that Lazarus brings a creature of your choice from the graveyard and puts it directly onto your battlefield. And so what happens here is you're generating a bunch of these skeletons. You've got Holy Skull down here, which is basically an instant type of spell or imminent spell, and it will bring 5 infinite rank skeletons into play for you. And so that plus Lazarus' first skill here, where Lazarus can bring in rank infinite skeleton creatures, that's going to generate your engine of skeletons that's going to be attacking for you. It's going to be used to give health back to Lazarus. And they're very resilient, and they're also going to be charging up your ether. Your ether is going to be used for either creating more coins, which are going to pay for actions, or your ether is going to be used to give up 3 of those ether to draw a card. Okay, and then your stock over here is where your coins are going to collect, so to pay for your actions. Okay, so that's the first summoner, and the last skill there, bringing the creature directly back from your battlefield. That also has synergy with the Grave Robber, and so let me find the Grave Robber here real quick. Where did I place that Grave Robber? 1 second here. Okay, right here. So the Grave Robber, for 1 coin and a successful flip, the Grave Robber transfers a targeted creature from an opponent's graveyard to yours. So you can steal a creature from their graveyard, put it in your graveyard, and then Lazarus, using the third skill, can pull that creature back into your battlefield. So you can even steal their creatures from their graveyard and put it on your battlefield. Atlas is kind of a defensive type of summoner. Atlas can create a static field that prevents all damage to one of your creatures during this turn. So sometimes you won't use Atlas during your turn. You wait till your opponent's turn, and then you use Atlas to make your creatures, even your little skeletons that are reanimated, can be great defenders. Atlas's second skill can basically do 3 different, can do 1 point of damage to 3 different creatures of your choice. And then Atlas's third skill will allow you to summon up to 2 imminent cards, so it's a good caster type of card, and also can make your opponent discard a card. Going up to your level ups, you've got a basic level up, you've got the rank 3 level up, which is a rare card, and this summoner who gains this level up has the additional effect that it'll draw a card for you. You've got the rank 1 level up in this deck, which can be used anytime during your turn. And so you can basically have a level 1 Lazarus and then use it to make a rank infinite skeleton if you wanted to, or invoke a card. And then you can play this level up, which normally level ups are only played during the restoration phase, to untilt Lazarus, and then he goes up to a level 2, and then you can use both of his level 2 capacity points to be able to play cards. Very powerful level up card. Last level up card here is the rank 2 level up card, which when you play this, the summoner who gains this level up gains 3 health points. So you can use this one to help to bring Atlas back. You can use Lazarus' second ability with the skeletons to bring back his health points. And so this is a very tough deck once it gets rolling. If you get behind with Lazarus to take him down. So you want to try to move out against this deck very quickly. Up here you have the flesh ring. Flesh ring effectively allows you to, it's an equipment, you'll place it on your summoner, and then they lose a health point, but it's usually not a problem with this deck because Lazarus is generating health points pretty easily with the skeletons that he's putting into play. And then what it allows you to do is you can perform an additional invocation without using a capacity point. So it's like a free casting ability. When you do that, you lose a health point for using the flesh ring, but it's a great incantation. Already talked about the rank infinite spell or creature here with a skeleton, and then we have the Holy Skull we talked about. Down here we've got Irrational. Irrational is really more of a multiplayer card, so you're not typically when you're playing this, you're not going to play. If you're playing 1v1, it's not super useful, so you might pull this out of your pre-constructed deck if you're playing one-on-one and put something else in there that's more useful. This is really more if you've got 2, 3, or 4 to be able to target an opponent to be able to level everybody against that opponent. Basically, it's kind of like balance or other cards you might have seen from other games where all the creatures and the doors and everything are going to balance to whatever the targeted player has. This is the Reaper incantation. Reaper is really has great synergies in this deck, as you might imagine, because number one, it can destroy target creature. If you fail on the attempt, you have to sacrifice one of your creatures. But what you can do there is basically you sacrifice it every time. If you look at the bottom there, creatures destroyed in this way are replaced by rank infinite skeleton creatures. So even if you are targeting your opponent's creature and you lose, you fail, you can then sacrifice one of your skeletons. It's going to create a rank infinite skeleton anyways, and then you're going to get a free charge of ether when that skeleton dies when you sacrifice it, and potentially you're going to roll the dice to reanimate that skeleton, bring it back into play. So you might have 2+1 or two rank infinite skeletons, and one of them's going to have a +1/+1 counter on it. So real good synergy there between the Reaper and playing with rank infinite skeletons. Last smile, 1, flip a coin, you get a success. You randomly select a card from your graveyard. If that card is a creature, it returns to your battlefield. If the card is not a creature, then you're going to put it into your hand. So if you don't have a lot of cards in your graveyard, playing this early game is super effective. It's rank 4, so you can have 4 of them in your deck when you start constructing your own decks. And then if you look at this circle down there at the bottom, it's considered a common card. Okay, going up here to Overload. Very, very powerful card. That's why it's a together card. You're going to need both summoners tilted and use 1 capacity point from each of them to be able to play this card. And then you get to choose. Do you want to have +1/+1 charges for all your creatures, or do you want to have all opposing creatures gain a -1/-1 charge? You also have the ability, if you want to, as an action, to be able to pay 1 and then flip a coin. If you're successful, you can destroy any target constant card, and then if it fails, then you destroy Overload. So it's a risky type of move there, but if you've got some card that's just keeping you from winning the game, then it might be worth the risk. Additionally, you've got Proteform up here. Actually, I'll wait on Proteform since I know I'm in the way up there. So we'll come back around to Proteform. Eternal Damnation gives a -1/-1 charge to all angel, cat, knights, and unicorn creatures in play. I just created Christmas themed deck that's on the Rise Discord underneath constructed deck thread there, and it's called Santa's Sleigh. So it's kind of in theme. It has unicorns and things like that in it, and it's got the new Christmas sets that are coming out this Saturday that I talked about in the intro. Going to be great cards, but anyways, this is going to be a good one to play against a unicorn type deck. And then also you can flip a coin if you have a success. All zombies, demons, skeletons, and monster creatures get +1/+1 charge during this turn. So very useful. Again, combine that with Protoform and you can do it again. So going from Eternal Damnation down to Demonic Skull, this is a very strong creature on its own, flying. It's got reanimation, and then it's going to get a +1/+1 charge for every skeleton in your possession, including those in your graveyard. So all of those skeletons that you're making with Holy Skull or Lazarus is just going to make this a bigger and bigger flying skeleton creature. Then you've got Resurrection Prophecy. So if one of your summoners that dies during the game, like Atlas might die, then you can just return Atlas to the game with 5 health points at Atlas's initial level. So if he's leveled up to 2 or 3, he loses those levels, but he does come back into the game, and that helps you out. Next card we're going to talk about here is Void Energy. So Void Energy it allows you to basically, you can do this once per turn. So it comes into play with 3 charges on it, and then you can remove one of those charges to use one of your summoner skills again. So any of the 6 skills that you have between Lazarus and Atlas, you can use it again, as long as they have the level to be able to use that skill. And you can do that once per turn, and then you can also add charges to the void energies so that you can keep doing this throughout the game. For every 3 coins that you spend, you can add a charge to this incantation. Then you've got the Undead Morpher. Basically, it copies any skeleton or zombie type creature, and this deck is full of skeletons and zombies, so whatever is most useful that's on the board at the time, you just straight up copy it, and then for 2 ether charges, you can change the form of Undead Morpher to another of the same type, so either a skeleton or zombie, depending on what you chose the first time. Then you got Catacombs. Catacombs is a door, 0/1. It can only block ground creatures. And if you open Catacombs through some method, there's different ways to open doors, whether it's through a key or some creatures have special abilities to open doors. Then it will randomly bring back a creature from your graveyard. It's got 2 actions. First action is you pay 1 coin, flip a coin. If you get a success, then you sacrifice a creature to bring a targeted creature from your graveyard directly into play. So with combining this and Lazarus, you can really have creatures die, and then you can bring them right back, and you can steal them with the grave robber, and then attack with them, and it's just a lot of resilience in this deck for survivability with creatures. Next action, pay 3 coins, then flip a coin. If you get a success, you sacrifice one of your summoners, and all your creatures return to from the graveyard to the game ready to fight. So this might be a Hail Mary type of move, where you might do this at the end of your opponent's turn if you've wiped the board with Hecatomb or something like that, and then you're able to return all your creatures from the graveyard to the game, and it might be the game-winning condition there on that attack. Captive Skeleton comes in chained, comes in with reanimation. If you pay 2, you have a successful coin flip, then basically you're going to lose that chained. And so that's going to gain a +2/+2 charge, taking us up to a 3/4 skeleton with reanimation. So really strong skeleton, just have to get rid of those chains. Then you've got Hecatomb down here. It's basically a board wipe, 2 coins, a successful flip, all opposing creatures die, fail, all creatures in play die. Again, this works pretty well with reanimation, because even if your creatures die, if you fail, then you get to roll a dice for everyone that dies. They're going to give you ether for all the creatures that died that are rank infinite creatures, and then you get to roll a die for each one, and they might come back into play with a +1/+1 counter. So Hecatomb's a good card. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and move my positioning of where I'm at on the screen over so that I could talk through the rest of the cards. And then now we're going to transition into the next card, which is Serious Exploration. You search for a rank 2 card of your choice, like Hecatomb. reveal it, then shuffle your library. You pay 2 coins after you get that card into your hand, and you can play that card directly from your hand. Dark Temple, it's another part of the engine here. It also generates skeletons every turn because you're going to select skeletons when you're playing Dark Temple in this deck. But if you played this card in a different deck, you could choose bats or robot or R01, I think is another rank infinite card, or Goonie, or those types of cards that are rank infinite creatures. And then this is going to generate one when it comes into play, and then it's going to generate one every turn at the beginning of your turn. Pay 1, flip a coin success. You can change the type of creature generated by the Dark Temple. So for whatever reason, if you decided you wanted to have rank infinite bats, Nocturne, for example, you need flyers or something like that, you can attempt to do that with Dark Temple. So there's some modularity there. Compulsive Accumulator, this is kind of a little bit of a loop, so if you control at least 5 creatures of the same type, you can draw an extra card at the beginning of each cycle. So you play Holy Skull, you get 5 skeletons. If you have Compulsive Accumulator in play, now you're drawing 2, or you're drawing an additional card. So at the beginning of your turn, if you would normally draw 2, you draw 3. If you draw 1, you draw 2. So it's just a good way there. And then obviously that's going to get you more creatures. If you were playing with rank infinite cards in your deck, then for 2 charges, you could invoke up to 3 rank infinite creatures from your hand. This is a rank 2 card, so this is another one you could grab with Serious Exploration if you wanted to. Here's an awesome creature, Necromancer Skeleton. Again, another skeleton. It's flying. It's got Horde. Horde means that it can block multiple creatures, and it can decide how the attacks, in what sequence the attacks take place. And so who you're fighting first, who you're fighting second. For 2 coins, you may put a skeleton creature of your choice from your graveyard into your hand, and then for 1 coin, you can transform 3 rank infinite skeletons into a rank infinite skeleton 4/4 creature with Horde. So it gives you, again, some more balance. Here's another engine here with the Skeleton King. So the Skeleton King works real well. Number 1, he's got immunity, which is hilarious because he's already dead. So he's not taking on any disease. So get that trash out of here. Also, he's got reanimation and he's got pierce. And so pierce is basically like trample. And so when your Skeleton King starts to get big, then when creatures try to block him, his damage is whatever it does not get blocked by their defense is going to roll straight on through to one of their summoners. And then all other skeleton creatures in play, again, the emphasis is on others, so Skeleton King does not benefit from this, but if you were able to have 2 Skeleton Kings, then 1 Skeleton King could work on the other one to give it a +1/+1 charge, but they don't work on themselves. And then each time the Skeleton King attacks or defends, it creates a rank infinite skeleton under your control. So you can start to see how you're going to start populating the board pretty quickly with a lot of skeletons. It's going to be awesome. The other thing you can do is use this Undead Morpher to copy this Skeleton King, and now you've got 2 Skeleton Kings in play, and they're benefiting each other, and they're benefiting the rest of the skeletons that you have on the board. Then we got our first zombie here. I think we've talked about Z Colossal. Z Colossal's got advantage, which has to do with when he attacks, then he gets to decide who's defending, and so that's really good. And then he's also got Pierce, so as a 4/2 creature, he's going to be rolling right over small 1/1 type token creatures or rank infinite creatures pretty well. Then you got Grim Dance. Grim Dance gives +1/+1 to all of your zombie, skeleton, demon, and monsters on your battlefield. And then every 2 cycles, you're going to send a randomly chosen creature from your graveyard to your battlefield. So it's just going to keep bringing creatures back from the dead without you having to use your skills from Lazarus or the other abilities that we talked about. I think this last mile is another one, so you don't have to use that just automatically. It's an incantation, so it stays in play. So it's just buffing your skeletons and zombies, and then it's also helping to bring creatures back into play. So this deck's all about resilience and survivability. Whenever one of your summoners gets hit, this is Undead Army. Undead Army generates a rank infinite skeleton creature under your control. And so every time you take damage, you're creating more skeletons. And then for 1 and 1 coin, for a success, you get to deal 1 damage point to a target summoner. So that is super useful. If for some reason they're able to lock you out from being able to attack them, then you can still do direct damage with Undead Army. Then you got Grave Robber. We talked about this one. Grave Robber is also immune to diseases. And then for 1 and 1 coin, Grave Robber transfers target creature, steals it basically from an opponent's graveyard and puts it into yours. Then you have Abduction, rank 2 imminent. retrieve targeted creature invocation from your graveyard and put it in your hand. And then for 2 coin, you can play that creature that you put into your hand directly into play. And we got Last Hope. Last Hope is similar to this Resurrection Prophecy, but Last Hope, if one of your summoners is about to die, then you sacrifice all of your coins. You have to have at least 3 coins, but then you can restore them back with half their starting health, whatever that may be. So that's another good card to keep you in the game. Then we'll talk about Maso and Sato here. They're kind of a pair. Maso has to do with if one of your summoners, one of your summoners gains 1 health point each time the activation of an action under your control fails. So if you fail an action, like you get a fail instead of a success, like let's say you try to do Reaper over here and you got a fail, then Maso says if Sato, then one of your summoners will gain 1 health point each time that it fails. If you have Maso and Sato together, then it doubles the effect. So you're going to get 2 health points every time you fail. For Sato, you're going to get 1 coin every time an action of your opponent's fails. And if you have them both into play, you're going to get 2 coins every time your opponent fails an action. Orb of Pain is all about basically putting a charge of pain on a target constant card. And it increases by 1 at the beginning of each turn. So it just keeps getting bigger every turn. And then you can pay 5 coins, remove all of the charges that are on that target constant card, and target summoner takes as many damage points as the charge removes. So this is another way to do direct damage, and you want to put this on a card that you think is going to be in play for a long time, and because you want it's going to be doing direct damage to target summoner. So you don't want to put this on something that you think is going to die soon because it's not going to be very effective. Parasite, that's a disease. This is one of those things that your skeletons that have immunity to disease are not going to be impacted by, but this is good to target on your enemy. So for 1 coin and a success, target creature gets a -1/-1 cumulative charge, Malice, at the beginning of each turn for 3 turns. So it's going to get a -1 charge, then another one, then another one. If it dies because of the parasite, 1 summoner under the control of the parasite creature, it's going to take 3 damage. And if you fail, then you get to infect one of your weakest creatures. Got Proteform. Proteform is an awesome creature. It's a copycat. It also has reach, so it can defend against flying creatures. Proteform, if you do an action in a turn, then Proteform allows you to do it again. So you basically can recopy that action or accomplish that action once per turn. You're still going to have to pay the cost associated with doing the action, but you're not limited to the normal rules, which say you can only do 1 action per turn. So if I have 2 Proteforms in play, I could potentially try to destroy 3 of their creatures with Reaper, as an example of an action that you could try to do. Then you got Z-Dogs here, got a couple of copies of them. They have Horde, which is good for blocking. And then if you flip a coin, you get a success. Then Z-Dogs will have, I think that's Bloodlust. I have to remember the exact term of that ability, but basically, oh, it's Drain, sorry. Drain. After attacking or defending in battle, a creature that has Drain will gain a +1/+1 charge as long as it doesn't die. So the +1/+1 counter doesn't come on until after the combat, but if it survives, then whether it's attacking or defending, it's going to get +1/+1. Whereas Iron Skin only gives it a +1/+1 if it's defending and survives after it defends. Drain gives you +1/+1 for either. Okay, and then jumping on down here to Conehead, Z-Gunner has reach and also distance, and distance has to do with it's like a special type of ability like flying that certain things are unable to talk creatures to block creatures with distance. And so it's a good ability to have. It's kind of showing thematically that he's able to reach out with his gun and touch somebody and they're not able to block him. So starts out as a 2/1 creature, rank 3. You could have 3 of them in your deck if you want to. Then we'll jump up here, or excuse me, I think I skipped these here. So Z-Destructor. Z-Destructor has Pierce, which is like that trample ability I talked about. For 1 coin and a successful toss, the Z-Destructor destroys the target door, and then if it fails, target opponent chooses a door or creature on your battlefield. If there's not one, then the Z-Destructor will die. Then you've got Ravenous Imp. This is a thief here. It's a flying thief. So, and it's got the fire element. Fire element works with Pyro Barbar, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is a summoner from the Kickstarter stretch goals set, but it doesn't apply necessarily in this deck right here. But if the Ravenous Imp comes into contact with a summoner, the target opponent removes 1 coin from their stock, and then you add 1 coin to your stock. So I'm reading this right now as they have to have a coin for you to steal, and then you steal that coin and you put it in your stock. Then the Shroud Prophecy, you're going to add a number of coin to your stock equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard. So it's quite possible you're going to have a lot of creatures going in and out of your graveyard, so that's a good card to have. Then our last card here is Echoes, and so Echoes basically is going to copy a spell that or the basic effect of the last invocation, imminent invocation that you played. So you could play Holy Skull and put 5 rank infinite skeletons in and play Echoes right after that, and you're going to get another 5. So that's a easy way to get a lot of skeletons pretty fast if you start the game or end up having these 2 cards in your hand at the same time. That's a good play. Or you can do any of these other imminents again if you needed to get their basic effect. Pull a creature back, resurrect a summoner potentially, that type of thing, as long as it's within the same turn. Okay. And that is all the cards. So that was the quick and dirty. Hopefully that was helpful. Post any questions you got in the comments. I'll get back to you. Looking forward to seeing this Christmas set come out. And so get out there and if you want to support it, get out there and build a guild. Talk to you later. Have a good one.